Welcome to the inaugural episode of Tao and Amanda Live on Cash Alternative TV. I'm Tao, and this is Amanda.
Tao, you had one job. One job at the beginning of this show.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. I got to get the nerves out.
Maybe next time. Well, hey, not only are we Amanda and Tao, but there is also a surprise guest moderator today, and that's Pete. Hey, Pete, why don't you give a little wave to the audience here? This is the hand of justice. This is the hand that will bring down the, ban hammer if need be for anyone who tries to ruin anybody's day.
Yeah, and he's too good looking to show up in the chat. We just can't have him on camera. He's too good looking. He'll show me up.
Yeah, no, both of us. I mean, that's one of the most basic rules of film and television. You don't put someone who's better looking than you are, next to you. So obviously.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming for this show. I've been bugging Amanda for quite a while to do this. There's so many out there in Dash Nation and crypto and in general that are fond of Amanda and have come into the cryptocurrency because of her teachings and her shows that she's done. So I'm ecstatic to be working with Amanda here after many years of persuasion and many multiple rejections. It's finally here.
Multiple rejections, huh? Sure, it's true. Well, hey, everybody. Let me tell you what we're going to do on the show today. So at Tao's suggestion, which I think was a super good suggestion, we're going to begin by just introducing ourselves and how we got into cryptocurrency, because it seems like everybody has a unique way that they got into cryptocurrency. And once you find out how a person got into cryptocurrency, it seems like, for me anyway, I know a lot more about them. And then after we've done that, we'll tell you why we're doing this show, this Tao and Amanda Live in particular. And then to, move into the meat of the show, as it would be on a normal week, Tao and I each have a story that piqued our interest this week. Tao, what was the story you wanted to talk about?
Well, are you a Harry Potter fan?
Well, of course.
Okay, well, there's a lot of talk about a privacy protocol that's named after a magic spell in Harry Potter. It's called Mimblewimble.
Okay, all right. Yes, I did see some stuff about that. I have looked into it. I'm looking forward to talking about that. And then what I wanted to talk about was, so someone passed me this. Actually, it was Haitham Abdul Karim, a fellow supervisor at the Dash-and-Bitcoin Foundation. He posted this video in the Dash Investment Foundation Discord that looked, for all intents and purposes, it looked like a commercial for cryptocurrencies, including the Venezuelan petro. And then it's interspersed with footage of the president of Venezuela, President Maduro, talking about cryptocurrencies. And I was like, what is this a cryptocurrency commercial? It shows Dash, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and then the president of Venezuela. And I was like, what in the heck are we seeing? It only had 70 views at the time of showing. So anyway, I dug a lot more into that, found out some more there, and we'll talk about that to wrap things up.
Okay, yeah, that's quite a controversial topic because a lot of people might not be fans of Nicolas Maduro and his policies. But on this particular issue, he's got the right idea. He's going to start a crypto nation. So yeah, that'll be interesting to talk about.
Very. Well, without any further ado then, Tao, I'm looking forward to hearing how you got into cryptocurrency. And so everyone knows, Tao started telling me this story last week, and it got a little, I don't know, I said, stop. I want to hear this at the same time that everybody else is hearing this. And so tell us all, Tao, because I've known you for 5 years, and I never heard this story. So probably that's true of a lot of other people too.
Yeah, well, it's not something that's well known. It's kind of a mundane reason to get into cryptocurrency if you think about it. Well, I was researching into American Netflix and how to get it here in Canada. That's where I'm from, in Canada, because there's more variety of shows and more content that I can watch here in Canada. So my search took me to the VPN chat rooms because I wanted to get a VPN. And one of the users on the VPN chat room was like, well, you should get this one because it goes into, it takes Bitcoin. And I'm like, what's Bitcoin? And so I went down the rabbit hole to Google, searched it, and it was something that really interested me and caught my eye. And I became fully on into Bitcoin, invested about 10K. And then I said, well, you know what? I'm really into privacy and I'm really into financial freedom, and I really want to find a currency that is into that. So my search led me to Dash, and I've been involved with Dash ever since.
So that's a quick story. Let's unpack that a little.
Sure.
So, okay, so you're trying to get American Netflix in Canada.
American Netflix. Yep.
You had not used a VPN before, which, yeah, I don't think I had ever. I don't even think I knew what a VPN was before cryptocurrency. I don't think I knew what most things having to do with computers and networks were before cryptocurrency. I didn't even know what a QR code was the first time someone showed me cryptocurrency. Okay, so, and so you find out that the VPNs or whatever are like accepting Bitcoin. And so you bought some, and then did you pay with it too?
I didn't pay with it yet because I didn't have it yet. But that was just how I got into Bitcoin. I did eventually. I just chose one that didn't accept Bitcoin because it was set up better. But that was how I did get into Bitcoin at first.
And so you decided to invest, like, based on, I mean, was it just you saw this Bitcoin that it's accepted at VPNs and you were like, I'll buy it? Or like how many steps or how many hours or things did it take for you to go from that's interesting to I'll buy it, a whole lot of it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I just Googled it and I did research on Twitter because I was on Twitter before that, and I looked into Coinbase. It was very easy to buy Dash from where I was. It was actually easier to buy Bitcoin back then than it was now. You know, like because there's no restrictions on country. Like I could be a Canadian and have an American bank account, but you can't do that anymore. So yeah,
I do remember that. I do remember Coinbase was a lot easier to use back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, they really. I mean, it's good for security wise and stuff like that. I know that they have to listen to regulations and government and everything, but it was a lot easier back then. But no, it was just a kind of long nights searching on Google and finding out about it, and it was in the news a lot then too, because it was just in the run up in 2013 when it went for its first all time high of like around 1,200 or something like that before it went back down. So yeah, it was definitely something that was covered a lot in the news, and I was pretty excited to be a part of it at that time. But now I'm all about Dash.
So are you saying that you decided like over the course of like one day to invest? Like you did all that research that night and then decided to invest via Coinbase the next day?
No, I wouldn't say that it was one day. I'd say it probably was more like around a week later that I started seriously considering investing.
Interesting, about a week. Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, that reminds me. Okay, so my phase was much longer. So you said this all happened for you in 2013, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you said that on this show, but you told me that last week. So either way,
I did mention that here.
You did? Okay. Yeah. So mine was also early 2013. Maybe it was like February or something. I was on Facebook. And I just, somebody, something in my feed, my Facebook feed was like, Bitcoin, And I was like, really? Like, I'm friends with someone or I follow someone on Facebook who tweets about like Minecraft money, or not tweets, but, posts about Minecraft money. And I just remember thinking like, I should probably unfriend this person. That's annoying. And, and then it was like maybe like 4 months later, and I had not thought about anything about any of it since, that I was chatting with Jeffrey Tucker, and he said true to Jeffrey Tucker form, he was super excited about it and said, "Do you have any Bitcoin?" And I was like, "No, I don't play Minecraft." And he said, well, get out a mobile device and install a wallet, and then I want you to hold up your QR code for me. And I did what he said because we were on Skype at the time, and then I hold it up and I'm like, "What's a QR code?" And so that, if that gives you any idea as to how unfamiliar I was with really just like computer-based tech in general. And so yeah, I mean, like he sent me some and he was like, "Find a way to spend it." And that just seemed like so strange to me. And it was this experience that like, sometimes people tell me like, "Oh, Amanda, you're so good at breaking down complex concepts into like simpler to understand things." And it's only because like I totally understand where complete lay people are coming from. Right? Like I didn't know what a QR code was. I didn't, and so, if I'm good at explaining things, it's only because I had to explain it to myself And
Yeah.
I'm just like regurgitating to what I explained to myself. And yeah, and then I think I decided to first buy some maybe in like maybe August of that year or something. But yeah, and then you know, I was in the I never declared maximalism, Bitcoin maximalism, but I do recall that like later the next year, so maybe like early 2014, that was maybe when like more altcoins that as they've been called started coming out.
Late 2013 to late 2014 was the big altcoin boom.
Yes, and I do remember seeing some posts in social media of people saying things like, the creation of these other coins is terrible for the potential success of Bitcoin because it's inflating the supply of cryptocurrency. And so we will not be able to, like Bitcoin won't have the selling point of being the scarce digital currency if there are all of these digital currencies. And this person seemed super concerned, and it just got me thinking. And I was like, well, is that true? Like, you know, if a digital currency is going to be successful, is it, you know, like totally detrimental for others to even exist? You know, and then I remember seeing a comment, maybe it was on that post or somewhere else, by Darren Tapp. I'm sure some people watching know who that is. Anyway, Dr. Darren Tapp, the mathemagician, as he's been called, formerly did like math-based work for Dash Core Group, and then currently teaches remotely at Arizona State University. I'm not sure if it's through their blockchain lab program or not, but anyway, he left a comment somewhere on social media with regard to all of these other coins being created, and he said, let 1,000 flowers bloom. And I've always really respected Darren, and I've always just thought he was a super smart guy and a successful guy. And so I thought, like, I want to be like Darren with regard to that.
Yeah, and it's something that people out there that are watching can really learn from. The exuberance of Jeffrey Tucker when he was showing you this Bitcoin. It's something that we can all do in day-to-day life. You know, we can all be excited about this technology, and don't be ashamed about talking about it. You know, to people that might not know anything. Like you and I, Amanda, we're kind of the same way. We're not very technically minded. We're more like into the social and the way how cryptocurrency is going to change the world type of thing. But for the regular people, it might be intimidating for them. And if we come across as genuine and sincere and genuinely excited about this technology, that's going to be huge for us moving forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of like segues into why we started this show, doesn't it, Tao?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as Tao likes to point out, you know, maybe he's asked me to do a show with him a time or two in the past.
Just a couple of times. Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah. And so this
persistence really does pay off out there.
Hashtag persistence pays.
Yeah.
So this most recent time, when Tao floated the idea by me, I was ready to accept it, right? Like it was the right time. I was ready to accept it. And when he said, oh, and by the way, I'd like us to talk about not just Dash, which as we both know is our favorite cryptocurrency between the two of us, but I also want to talk about like other cryptocurrencies and other happenings in the space. Are you okay with that? And he even floated like a few coins by me initially, like maybe we'll talk about this, maybe we'll talk about this coin, maybe we'll talk about this coin. Like, what do you think about that? And in that moment, I realized like why I wanted to do this show with Tao so much, which was I realized that I was not up to date on the coins that he had mentioned to me, right? Because years ago, you know, even when I was working for the Dash Treasury, I was still like more or less keeping up with other coins because I always wanted to have as complete a view as I could of the competitive landscape, right? So that I didn't develop like tunnel vision and like miss out on any investment opportunities. And you know, just like the classic, you know, what do smart investors do? They check, they look at their, you know, thesis or whatever their investment thesis, like I own this asset because reasons A, B, and C. And they're always like checking the whole world around them to make sure that like A, B, and C still hold true. And so I was always doing that. But then like a year and a half ago ish, when I don't know, and maybe it was like close to, you know, the end of 2017 bull run. But just when things started getting crazy, particularly with like the ICO, you know, boom, and it seemed like every, not only every day, but like almost like every 5 hours, there was like a new blockchain project coming out, and like a new pre-sale and a new, and it was like, you know, buy tokens for this, buy tokens for that. And like I went to our cryptocurrency, and like I would see these posts regularly of people being like, how can I be sure to not miss any pre-sales? Does anybody have any websites where I can go to make sure I hear about every pre-sale that there is? And I just remember thinking like, this sounds crazy. Yeah. And so I just stopped for the most part looking into new stuff. And like I like stopped being informed about the competitive landscape. And, you know, maybe at the time that was fine, because, you know, maybe I would have given myself like a seizure had I tried to keep up with all of that at the time. But now I absolutely agree with Tao that it's time to get back in and get, you know, as informed as I can be again.
Yeah, and I want to be an influence to our community in Dash also, because I think from my travels around the crypto sphere, from outsiders and insiders to the Dash community, I found that maybe there's a little bit of a lack of communication and willingness to talk to the other side. I think that there's a lot of good things going on in other crypto projects, and maybe possibly things for Dash to learn from. Like a big one that I've seen recently, just to give you one example, is the Dash wallet layout. Our Dash wallet layout could definitely be improved. Our UI could definitely be improved. And I heard that there's a wallet called Decred that I'm going to check out. And we'll see how their layout goes. And maybe we can recommend some changes for Dash, you know. So I think communication between the two projects is key. And I really want to be a leading cause of communication in that way.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree. And those the things that Tao just mentioned, those were some of the things that he was saying to me early on. And like I remember there was a post like on the our DashPay subreddit about a week or 2 weeks ago that said something about the Tezos treasury model and how it's like, you know, allocated differently than the Dash treasury model. And like I wanted to talk about that too. And yeah, I want to talk about all of this. So yeah, just to reinforce what Tao has said, everyone. We've pretty much just laid out, you know, what we represent and what we want. And what we represent is interested in the digital currency revolution. Each of us has a particular affinity for Dash, and each of us wants to stay fully informed about the developments and goings on in other crypto communities. We also want to be friendly with other crypto communities. And we just want to be just great ambassadors for sound money in general. And we'll probably want to define sound money as things go, might we not, Tao?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the flip side of that too is that the Dash project has lots to offer in the cryptocurrency space as well. And this goes to anybody else who's in other cryptocurrencies that perhaps might not have given Dash its due and the things that it comes up with. Like we've come up with a lot of cool tech, and we'll be happy to introduce that to you as well. So we're going to cover both sides.
Groovy. Well, thanks for that comment, Anti-Kaikkonen, that you can hear me typing. I won't do that anymore. Or I'll try to find a way to like mute my mic so that
live in the newsroom, it's Amanda B. Johnson.
Sorry if my typing went over Tao's voice at all. I'm sorry, Tao, if that happened.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Nobody wants to hear me anyway. They're all here for you.
Yeah, for sure. So then I think that takes us past our introductions and the why of this show. So Tao, why don't we start with your story? Oh, and by the way, everyone, we're keeping this show to 30 minutes or under every week. So that leaves us with something like just about 10 minutes to go approximately. And so 5 minutes on your story, Tao, approximately 5 minutes on mine. And then that'll be it, everyone, until next week.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the recent Mimblewimble privacy. There's a guy who claims that he broke the Mimblewimble privacy. He doesn't claim to know amounts that are sent, but he claims to be able to know who's sending to who. So he's claiming to be able to identify that and break the privacy of Mimblewimble. So what he does is he takes an analysis of inputs. It's kind of like CoinJoin, where he has a bunch of inputs and it applies to a bunch of outputs. And the outputs are all bundled up together, from what I understand, but the inputs come in separately. So he goes to the inputs and he tries to figure out how the outputs work. I'm not exactly sure how it works. Like I said, I'm not technically minded. But there's something called Dandelion and Mimblewimble, and that's where your first full node it doesn't broadcast the transaction to the whole network like it would be doing in Bitcoin. It just broadcasts to the next node, and it broadcasts to another node, and broadcasts to another node. And then like maybe 20 or 30 nodes down the line, it finally broadcasts the transaction. And he claims to be able to spin up a whole bunch of nodes to combat this and figure out where that transaction is coming from. So, like I said, it's definitely a fluid situation, because we've also had the developers of Grin that have come forward with a rebuttal on their own too. So,
right. So now, before we get into like what any of this means, I want to give a little bit of backstory on Mimblewimble. Not that I know that much, but more just like the timeline that the idea has been around, because as you may or may not know, everybody, like in the crypto space, a lot of things get talked about as being like real things in existence, when in fact they exist like only in text, basically in people's minds. So to my understanding, the idea of Mimblewimble was just dropped as like a text file into, I don't know, like some chat room or something, back in 2016.
Yeah, the guy who created it must have been a huge Harry Potter fan, because his actual name in the IRC, it was also related to Harry Potter, and this thing that he came up with was a Harry Potter spell. So, and also the guy who took it and ran with it also kept the Harry Potter theme. He was also named after a Harry Potter character, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah,
not a cult. And so I remember, actually, as a little bit of backstory, I was in Atlanta, Georgia in 2016 with Pete. We were there so I could speak at like the Atlanta Bitcoin meetup or something alongside Evan Duffield, right? This is when Evan Duffield, founder of Dash, was still involved with Dash, which he isn't any longer. And so my memory of Mimblewimble is sitting at a dinner table in Atlanta, Georgia, and like Pete's here on my left, and Evan Duffield is down at the end of the table. And then this guy next to me, who, you know, I don't know, he lives in Atlanta, like turns to me with his phone and says during dinner, "Have you heard of Mimblewimble?" And I said, "No." And he like, you know, like shows me his phone and he's like, "Look at this." And it must have been that text file that got, you know, dropped somewhere. And this guy next to me was just showing it to me. So anyway, I just wanted to tell that little backstory. And so as far as the story that we're talking about today, it seems like the crux here is not whether or not like Mimblewimble has been broken, because for anyone, and by the way, the links to this show are in the description section. So like, even if you want to like pause us right now, like go ahead and pause us. You know, this is like the magic of TiVo or whatever. You can pause us live, and when you come back, yeah, it's just gonna keep on going. So, you know, you're not gonna miss anything by pausing. And so you'll see in the description section, there's a link to the original claim of like having attacked Mimblewimble. And then underneath that, there's a link to like a refutation claim. This is made by a Grin developer. I tweeted him this morning because I wanted to try out Grin because I never have. And I tweeted this developer, I think his name is like Daniel Lerner. He looks like that tall redheaded wildling from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is if he's posted a picture that actually is him and wasn't just in fact a picture of the actor of Game of Thrones.
It's true, you never know.
It was uncanny. And so because I thought I would love to try out Grin before we talk about its using Mimblewimble here on the show, because apparently there are no like traditional crypto addresses.
That's right. There is
right.
No, yeah, it's I don't know how they work it, but they don't have any addresses. It's just a transaction between one and two people, and I don't know where the money goes. But we'll have to figure that out more later.
I know, right?
Apparently, there's no addresses. So okay.
Yeah. So they claim rather that it's like a transaction graph whatever that means, and that it doesn't feature addresses. And so what this developer says in his refutation paper is that the developers of Grin, having implemented Mimblewimble, never claimed that it obscured like transactional paths, basically, and that they only ever claimed that it obscured amounts sent. Yep. And so this to me sounds like a whole lot of conflicting assumptions. Some people assumed, maybe a lot of people assumed, that the Mimblewimble technology obscured transaction paths, and others are saying that it never did. And so aside from these two, conflicting claims, we also have Charlie Lee, founder of Litecoin and also kind of like spokesperson for Litecoin, it seems, because Litecoin had been considering implementing Mimblewimble, right? And maybe they still are. But then like Charlie Lee sends a tweet that says that Mimblewimble combined with CoinJoin is like the way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And what do we know about Coin? I mean, like the interesting tie-in to CoinJoin for this show, right? As we know, Tao, is that Dash uses a form of CoinJoin.
Absolutely.
And so what it sounds like, the takeaway from all of this is that the best way to obscure on, whether it be a blockchain or I don't know if you call Grin a blockchain, if they're using the graph, I don't know if they call themselves like a different thing, like how some cryptos call themselves like a DAG, like a whatever decentralized whatever graph or whatever. So I don't know what to call the Grin project. But regardless, it sounds like maybe the takeaway to all of this is that whether it's a traditional blockchain or not, the best way to obscure the path between sender A to like recipient A is CoinJoin, like used on Dash. And then there's the potential option, unless, it doesn't actually, unless it gets cracked over time, who knows? But then there's the potential option to obscure amounts via something like Mimblewimble. Maybe, again, pretty new stuff, not necessarily time-tested and hardened yet, but interesting to think about.
Amanda.
What?
I've got an idea for you.
What?
We're going to make our own coin, and it's going to be called Super Privacy Coin. It's going to be an X11 of privacy protocols. we're going to have CoinJoin. We're going to have ring signatures. We're going to have confidential transactions. We're going to have the whole 9 yards. Everything.
The ZK snarks.
And, yes, could we have all of that? And we're going to be banned in every country.
Wow. Okay, and then we can I guess
you heard it here first.
We'll put our infrastructure on the moon, right? Because you can't ban infrastructure on the moon.
There you go.
Cool. And then we can literally be the moon coin.
There you go. That's actually a really good idea. All right, don't steal that out there. That's ours.
All right. Well, since we've got that clearly wrapped up, let us move on to my story, because also tickety talk, time is ticking. Yep. So last week, so as I mentioned, Hytham from the Dash Investment Foundation shares this link in the DIF Discord, and it's timestamped to this pre-marked area. And I click on it. It says something like, President Maduro talks about Dash and Bitcoin on national news. And I was like, what? And so I clicked on it, and it was very confusing. Again, if you want to go look at it for yourself, I've put the link in the description. I think it includes the exact timestamp. Just pause us and then come back. So it starts out with a commercial, the graphics, and it's Dash, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Petro. And I can't tell, is it it looks like it's advertising a wallet. I can't even tell what it's advertising. And then it cuts to segments of the Venezuelan President Maduro and some of his crew, talking about cryptocurrency, seemingly in front of an audience. And I was like, are these the same? I thought they were the same thing. I thought, I didn't realize that it was different pieces of video spliced together. And so I was super confused. I reached out actually to a few different people who live in Venezuela to get the lowdown. And I got some responses. And if I can just share them with you. Okay, so Edgar from Venezuela confirms that there is indeed like a custodial web wallet for the Petro. I don't know if it supports other digital currencies, but there is a custodial web wallet for the Petro where one can sign up like now and do that. And he said that the website is I'll pull it up later.
Amanda, are
And
you
so
aware if that wallet was forked from Dash? Because I did hear that it was forked from Dash, but I'm not sure about that.
so the web wallet, I don't know, because what web wallet would it be forked from? I mean,
No,
I
no, I mean
understand.
the Petro network in itself.
I have always understood the Petro network to have been a fork of Dash, and which makes me wonder, like, how do you take something that's a permissionless network and make it permissioned? Because I'm assuming that the Petro is permissioned. Would that be a safe assumption, or maybe not?
Well, you'd think so, just based on other things that that government's been doing. But that's the topic for a whole other show and a whole other subject.
It's also a topic that we could probably we want to rope a programmer in on. Like, hello, how do you take something permissionless and make it permissioned? And they'd be like, well, obviously you. Okay,
Yeah,
but anyway,
come on, you guys.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
so then aside from Edgar, I also got an illuminating comment from Ernesto Contreras. He is the like Latam or South America. I'm not sure what his exact title is, but he works for Dash Core Group and is originally from Venezuela. And so Ernesto tells me that there was a cryptocurrency fair, like a Petro fair conference that was put on by the government of Venezuela. And so that's where the footage comes from. And then apparently during the conference, Mr. Maduro approaches an ATM. And to my understanding, it's a crypto buyer ATM. Ernesto doesn't say that specifically. He says that it's the same one that serves the Traki machine. So I don't know. Don't quote me on the whole crypto buyer thing, but Ernesto just says that the machine like has a connection to maybe like, I don't know if it's in Traki. And for anyone who doesn't know, Traki is like the Walmart of Venezuela, to my understanding.
Yeah, and they accept Bitcoin, Dash, and is there any other cryptocurrencies that they accept? Do you know?
I don't know.
You know? Okay.
Yeah, I like took some Spanish over my life, and I know you know some Spanish, Tao. But shoot, like feeling confident in the classroom and being like, I know Spanish, and then like just trying to understand what native speakers are saying—that's two different things.
Yeah, my wife is Spanish, so I watched the video that you were talking about, and there was one thing about that video that struck me. It was when Maduro was standing in front of, I think it was like a debit card provider, and he was saying, "I have to say this." Like he was saying, I believe in 2 to 3 years, the Juventud, which is like the young people of Venezuela, are going to be all using cryptocurrencies. It's going to be a crypto nación. It's going to be the nation of crypto. And whether or not you agree with his policies or anything to do with his politics, you can definitely see that that's a noble cause and definitely something that we as a crypto community should be striving for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to close out this story, because we got to go, Tao, we committed to people to, keep this 30 minutes.
We don't want to be liars. That's right.
Yeah, no, we don't want to be liars, and we're already 3 minutes worth of liars. But so basically, Ernesto said that what happens, like the Dash and Bitcoin mention, is that Mr. Maduro like approaches a machine and says, like, hey, what is this, or what can I buy here? And then one of the people in his crew says, hey, this is a cryptocurrency ATM that sells Dash and Bitcoin, and dude is like, okay. So that's what that video was. Again, if you're anything like me, like not fluent in Spanish, and you just saw the video, you're like, what is this? And so it was really nice to have some light shed on that. And again, like you say, Tao, it's really interesting to have the president of a long-standing nation state saying things in public like we aim to be a crypto nation. I mean, this is just going to be like, talk about taking out popcorn for the years to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Tao, in order to keep our honor as intact as possible at this point, I think it's time we sign off. So why don't you start us off with that?
Okay, well, that was our first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was Tao and Amanda live here on Cash Alternative TV. We're very happy that you came and joined us, and hope you enjoyed our content. And we're going to provide this content every Wednesday at 5 p.m. UTC. We value your comments, concerns, and suggestions. So if you're on Twitter, give us a follow at Tao Amanda Live. And if you're more into live chat, you can find us in the Dash Nation Discord, and that's on the channel Tao Amanda Live as well. And we're going to leave the invite link for a Dash Nation Discord in the link in the description below. So we're glad you guys showed up today.
For sure. And that's all we have for you today. And so we hope to see you next week, Wednesday at 5 p.m. UTC. Bye.
Bye for now.